Democrat Tim Ryan of Ohio has now broken with his party and is pushing for some tax policy ideas that don't seem too far off of some of the rhetoric coming out of the White House these days. Here's a video of him explaining.
To be competitive globally, we have to reduce the corporate tax rate. We're just not competitive globally because of that. The goal for us, and I know the Democratic caucus, people who are against it, is to create the new model. We can't just be the party of redistribution of wealth. We need to be the party of the creation of wealth in communities all over the country, not just Silicon Valley, not just Wall Street, but all over. Obviously, I've been to New Hampshire and I've been to Iowa, but I've also been to South Carolina and I've been to Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm going to be up in Indiana and I'm going to Kentucky. So to go to these places and see the kind of growth message, opportunity message, like not completely anti-business message, not being hostile to business, like play in democratic crowds in communities that know they need investment, know they need growth, know they need somebody to hire the workers that we keep talking about. If we could figure out the big economic question, which really is how do we get wealth out of the coasts and into the industrial Midwest and start creating real jobs by the hundreds, if not the thousands, in places like the ones I represent, that's a game changer, for me.
So two things right off the bat. First, that he even used the term redistribution of wealth. Stop framing things the way conservatives and Republicans want you to. That's insane. Come up with some other term. I mean, even if I disagree with your policies, you can try to come up with a way to express it that doesn't immediately confirm everything Republicans have been saying. And second of all, I mean, with this as like his economic core message, he's going to New Hampshire and he's going to Iowa. You could probably save yourself those stops because apparently he didn't learn anything from this last election. I know he's a friend of the show and everything, but if he's thinking about 2020 and this is the core message,
yeah, good luck.
That seems a little bit questionable.
That was pathetic. That was incredibly pathetic. I don't care if he's a friend of the show. I don't care if he's been a guest a billion times. I don't care what he is. That was a ridiculous argument. Let's bring the wealth back to the middle of the country.
He said take it out of the coast, not even like make sure both are doing well. He said take it out of the coast.
That's total Republican framing. I don't know where he's coming from or where he's trying to go, but
we know.
Well, we do know, he's trying to appease his corporate donors, but if you're genuinely concerned about middle America and ensuring that they have jobs and they have decent wages, why don't you do something about automation? Why don't you do something about the fact that the president just applied for more foreign workers to come into the country and take low-level jobs away from Americans? Why don't you do something to protect accessible education? Why don't you do a billion things that could help people in America actually succeed? Why don't you do something to actually penalize or penalize the companies that outsource these jobs? Really, you're gonna talk about cutting taxes because that's worked out so well so far?
Yeah. And look, we were talking when we were breaking down the likely push to slash taxes, how there are almost certainly going to be some Democrats who are gonna sign on to it, which is bad because that increases the chances that it gets passed, but also that then they can say that it's bipartisan, tax reform. Is it impossible now that he might be one of those? I don't think it's impossible. I mean, certainly, like you've said, you don't enter into the negotiations already having surrendered so much. And then on the other hand, Nancy Pelosi addressed Trump's proposed tax plan by saying this: President Trump is pushing a billionaires first trickle-down tax scheme that hands out massive tax cuts to the wealthiest at the expense of American families. That is. I mean, you have to say a lot more, but that is the first blow against the tax plan, that it is first and foremost and only for billionaires. Not that it's the path to competitiveness globally for American corporations.
I'm sorry, I have to jump in one more time real quick. I gotta get it out of my system and then you can rage, okay? How many corporations, how many banks pay nothing in federal taxes? Nothing. In fact, they get a tax freaking rebate. Okay, they get taxes back. How many of you middle-class Americans, working-class Americans have to pay federal taxes? And if you don't pay federal taxes, you'll have the IRS breathing down your neck, nickel and diming you, making sure you pay everything back with interest included, right? But Bank of America, Verizon, all these gigantic telecommunications companies that profit unbelievable amounts of money, all of a sudden, no, a corporate tax rate is so high. But what about the effective corporate tax rate? They pay less taxes than working class and middle class Americans, and this asshole has the audacity to stand there and say, oh, well, they're gonna create jobs. Haven't been creating jobs. In fact, what they do is continuously cut jobs, outsource jobs, automate jobs, and basically screw us over. That's what they do.
Okay, so John Nana mentioned about friend of the show and all that stuff. I guess. So in a long time ago, in a place far, far away on Wilshire, when we did the show, we had a lot more guests on. It was a 3-hour show, it was radio and online. Tim Ryan was probably the congressman that most came on the Young Turks, and we appreciated that. And I liked him personally, and I went out a couple of times in DC with him, etc. But this to me is not personal. And this statement of his and this idea is 100% wrong. And this happens to people, man. I don't know what Congressman Ryan's intentions were when he first came in, and he was very young when he did, and he went up against an incumbent, beat him, etc. But I do know that Washington seeps in, and I'm so glad we did not base this show in Washington, D.C., because it's toxic and it gets into your system. And so, and you can put aside his intentions or what happened to him, just judge him on the policy. And the policy is disastrous. So, and the framing is disastrous. You guys are absolutely right. So when you have a Democrat saying we should stop redistributing wealth, well, you just handed the Republicans a giant gift.
That's right.
You told them the Democrats are the bad guys who redistribute wealth. Well, that's exactly.
Can we start it before we stop it?
Yeah. Well, so look. That's exactly right. And so, if you want to do the right framing and actually, and it's not just a matter of framing; it's the reality. Okay. There is a party here in America that has redistributed wealth. It's the Republican Party, and I can show you exactly. And I've done it 100 times on the show, and I'll mention it again. Corporations used to pay about 35% of the taxes in America. Now they pay 11% of the taxes in America from 1952 to 2015. That's the difference. So where do they redistribute those taxes to? To the payroll tax, which is paid by middle class Americans. And that went in the opposite direction, from around 10% to around a third of all of our taxes are paid by middle class Americans now. Corporations redistributed the wealth, so they got to put it in their pocket, and they made you pay for it. And instead of making that claim, that argument, which is based in fact, he helps a Republican talking point by pretending that Democrats are doing redistribution of wealth. I can show you exactly how taxes have gone down precipitously, the effective tax rate for corporations and the actual tax rate, marginal tax rate for the richest people in the country. And the golden era of what Republicans called the golden era, 1950s, 1960s in America, taxes, the highest marginal tax rate was at 91%. That's not 91% of all your money. It was after a certain amount. So in today's dollars, it might be after $10 million, they start taxing you at that rate. But so now, and we had a booming economy. We had wages that were going up along with productivity. You could show all these facts. Instead, what we have is a unilateral surrender here. And it's not really, let's be honest, it's not surrendering to the Republican Party, it's surrendering to the donors. Because the donors pay for the really strong Republicans who push the political spectrum to the right, and really weak, compliant Democrats who go, oh, the Republicans are so right. You know what, oh, those Democrats, they just keep taking from the poor rich, from those poor multinational corporations who just can't seem to catch a break. And then what on God's green earth are you talking about taking money out of the coast and putting it in the middle of the country? No, if you want to talk about job creation, that's great. We're all in favor of job creation all across the country. Here, be in favor of a $1, maybe $2 trillion infrastructure package. Why don't you introduce that package, which creates roads, bridges, clean water all across the country and would create jobs all across the country without punishing the coast? You sound like a weak sauce Republican, which is exactly what the donors love. And last thing, this guy challenged Nancy Pelosi, and I got no love for Nancy Pelosi, and I think she's way past her time. But here on this issue, she's exactly right. She has the right framing, and you thought, oh, it's a young upstart challenging Nancy Pelosi, And I didn't know that Ryan was going in this direction. And I thought, well, maybe that's a great thing, right? Now, forget it. You're telling me your genius idea is to challenge Nancy Pelosi from the right? It's and I mean, look at what Congressman Ryan said there. I've been to Iowa and New Hampshire, but I also went to South Carolina. That's the third voting state in the primaries. So that's not an also, that's not a but, that's an and. So you're gonna run against Nancy Pelosi, or you're gonna run for president as a fresh face, and your fresh idea is to do the same thing the Democrats have been doing for 40 years, bowing your head to Republicans and corporate donors. Sad end to a once promising career. Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.